Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today for episode 70, we're going to be breaking down UFC 292. Unfortunately, we don't have a guest today. Didn't work out, so it's going to be just me. Hope that's all right with everybody. It is my channel, but yeah, so we've got 11 fights, I believe, right now, because now they made Blackshear Bautista, right? Yeah, I think we got 11 fights, and we're going to have a 12th. We're going to have Brad Katona versus whoever wins tonight. I think Ultimate Fighter is actually happening either right now or at 10 o'clock. I don't remember. So we'll see who wins. What I did for that fight was I just broke down both guys, Cody Gibson and Rico De Sulio, I think is his name. I broke down both of them. I prepared charts for both of them. So we're going to break down both and we'll be prepared. Doesn't matter who wins. So we'll watch out for that line. And the one fight that I didn't get to fully go over is Blackshear Bautista, but I have already taped Bautista for the Garbrandt fight. And I taped Blackshear last week, so I have a pretty good idea who I'm working with, and we'll hop right into the card in a moment. Hugh Jass, oh god, I always fall for these names. Rough week last Saturday, hoping for a bounce back. Yeah, me too, man. Wasn't horrible. We went down 1.25 units, I think, something around there, but could be worse, could be better. Chronic Combat, my brothers, make sure you're checking them out. They've got a dope podcast as well. Good evening, brother. CT, my guy. What is up, guys? So I do want to make a quick announcement. I dropped a new Discord today. I'll put up a link on YouTube. That might be actually be a little too crazy, but it's on my Twitter. If you want to reach out to me, however else, I can send it to you. Started it today. It's 100% free. Literally just a space to talk fights. I'll post my bets and my thoughts in its own little channel. And other than that, it's purely for talking fights. So if you like that kind of thing, pull up. Like I said, it's 100% free, not like a lot of these other Discords out there who charge you $15 to talk some fights. So pull up. Yeah, CT, I came pretty much straight from work, so figured it would look nice. Maybe it'll I'll start making the thing on the channel. But we'll start off the show. We've got Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard first. This is the first Ultimate Fighter 31 final. It is 31, right? I believe so. And it's really interesting because you got Holobaugh, who's making his third. Well, if he wins, it'll be his third stint in the UFC. And Hubbard, he got cut after, what was it? It was the Vince Pichel loss, and now he'll be back for his second run if he's the guy who wins. So Holobaugh, 19-7-0, 36 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. On the other side, you got Hubbard. He's 15-6-0, 31. He's 5 years younger, 1 inch shorter, 2-inch reach disadvantage. And I've got him at Team Elevation. On the other side with Holobaugh, I don't have anything, so I guess we'll go with Team Jacau South. If you're new here, what I do is I just go on their Instagrams to double check where they're training last, and I look at Tapology as well. But when there's nothing there, I got to stick with Tapology. So in terms of breaking down the actual fight, they both looked a lot better on the Ultimate Fighter, in my opinion. I ran back both their fights, and Hubbard, he had a close one with what's his name? Roosevelt Roberts, who some people think is pretty good. Some people like him. I never thought he was good. I literally bet Kevin Kroom against him and cashed. So never really thought that highly of him. Hubbard, they had a close fight. He got the decision. I think it was even a split. But he's a good wrestler. He's got very solid takedown defense. He's a good counter grappler. He's got pretty solid striking. I think the striking was what improved the most in my eyes on the Ultimate Fighter. And honestly, the same goes for Holobaugh, especially that last fight. I mean, I think everybody can't get over it. It was I don't even remember the opponent's name anymore, but he was also a UFC vet. I think Jason Knight, and Holobaugh beat the crap out of him. The body shots were nasty. That's how he got the finish, was the body shots. So he's got really clean striking. He's got like 8 submission wins, and he's a good 9 submission wins, and he's a good finisher. But other than the Lee Hammond finish on the Ultimate Fighter, I believe that was a guillotine. Last sub he got was in 2016. So it's not like he's super dangerous sub threat, but he does have 9 sub wins, and he does have it. His record underwhelming in the UFC, 0-5-1 for Holobaugh. Same kind of goes for Hubbard, but it's better. It's 3-4-0. I think the grappling of Hubbard is what's going to help him here, and not necessarily the offensive grappling, even though I think that's open as well. You got a 45% takedown defense on the side of Holobaugh, and I don't think his takedown defense is all that good. He is getting taken down still. He is getting controlled. I think that the better wrestler is definitely Hubbard, but Holobaugh can also possibly get his own takedowns. I don't think in this fight, though. I'll give the striking to Holobaugh by a little bit. I really liked what I saw in that Jason Knight fight, but I don't think it's too wide. I think the striking is going to be pretty close. I think Hubbard will either be close on the feet or might have an edge of his own. So give me Hubbard here. I just think he's better rounded. I think he's younger. I don't think he's younger. I know he's younger by 5 years. 36 is already kind of pushing the limit for lightweight. And I just think that he's probably going to win a decision. I think he'll defend any takedowns if Holobaugh chooses to shoot. I don't think he will. I think he'll survive on the feet. Don't think he'll get massively outstruck. I don't think he'll get knocked out. You got to remember, Jason Knight is also someone who got cut from the UFC, someone who's on the older side, and somebody who's not that great anymore. So to knock him out in that brutal fashion, it's impressive, but to an extent. So I like Hubbard here. Not going to bet him at minus 170, which is what I remember the line being at last I checked. Minus 175. Yeah, I don't have any interest there. I don't have any interest in props. I've considered the Hubbard decision, but what is it? It's plus 165. And, you know, if he really drags out Holobaugh and tires him out, if he uses grappling, I think he can maybe get a late finish. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's a possibility. Bet Online is all over it. Plus 900 on the round 3, plus 800 on the round 2. We'll see what other books give, but I doubt it's going to be much better. Give me Austin Hubbard to win this fight, and we're going to move on. So I'm not going to move up the Tapology thing because we're talking about Brad Katona now, and it's not even up on Tapology just yet. So what we're going to do, like I said, Katona is either fighting Gibson or DeSulio. Depends who wins tonight on The Ultimate Fighter. And just to help you guys get ready for the line, so, you know, you can hit the openers, you can hit it early. I broke down both guys, both Gibson and DeSulio, and we'll compare them both to Katona. So first we'll start with Brad Katona. Really interesting fella. I mean, he's just a very strange person. If you saw his exchange with Chandler on The Ultimate Fighter, you know what I'm talking about. He's very, like, neurotic, I would say. He's very neurotic and just a funny dude, but not on purpose. He's definitely not trying to be funny on purpose, but he is anyways. And he's very good. Like, you can't take it from him. He's very good. He's got some good wins in Brave recently against some pretty solid dudes too. I believe he was the champion, had a 5-rounder in his last one. Really good striking, very crisp, nice combinations. I like the work on the feet a lot. Only one knockout win, doesn't have the craziest power, but the output is there, and his striking is definitely very, very solid. The striking defense, pretty good at moving away from shots, but he can also be pretty hittable depending on the fight. His wrestling, I like his wrestling quite a bit. He showed some good wrestling on The Ultimate Fighter. He's shown it outside of there as well in Brave, and I think that might be something that's going to be open here for either fighter, but for Gibson, it might be a little less open than it will be against DeSulio, but we'll get there. His takedown defense of himself is very solid for Katona. I don't think either of these guys are going to take him down, maybe Gibson, but I highly doubt it. So I think that Katona will be able to keep it on the feet if that's where he wants it. And if he wants it on the ground, I think he's going to be able to take it there as well. And like I said, easier against DeSulio than against Gibson. He did beat Valiev in the semifinals or the finals. It was the finals on The Ultimate Fighter 31. This past season, and it was a good fight. I know a lot of people thought Valiev won. Honestly, I'm not even sure. I guess I edged Katona, but it was a really solid fight. He showed a lot of good things, good takedown defense, good scrambling ability, good striking, and Valiev is also a very high-level guy. Should have never been cut from the UFC and probably would smoke both Gibson and DeSulio. So not to do MMA math, but it's a very good victory. Now we'll do the other two. So Gibson, he's actually pretty good, and I feel like his record doesn't reflect it properly. He just lost to Ray Borg not too long ago. He lost to forgetting who the most recent one was. That might have been Ray Borg. I know he's got a loss to not a loss. He beat John Dodson after Dodson left the UFC. That was pretty impressive. And even in the Ray Borg fight, Gibson showed me really good takedown defense. I was very, very surprised, and pleasantly so. I think that if he's the one fighting Katona here, I think he's going to be able to defend a lot of the takedowns if Katona is shooting. And I think he's pretty competitive on the feet, too. He's got a very good output. I like his jab. I like the combinations. I like his front kicks. In general, I just think he's a very solid striker. Like I mentioned earlier, he's got pretty good wrestling of his own. I don't necessarily think that's going to be available here, but his takedown defense is really, really solid. And I think that will help him here a lot if Katona chooses to go to the ground. I don't think he necessarily is going to have to, but Gibson's the kind of guy to be in your face, to bring that pressure, bring that output, and he might force him to wrestle. So we're going to have to wait and see. I do think Gibson's the harder fight of the two. I predict Gibson's going to win tonight. Might already be happening. I wouldn't know. Can't watch right now. But I do think Gibson's going to win that one, and I do think he's a harder fight for Katona. If they open Katona like minus 300 over Gibson, I'm not touching it. Even minus 250, like I think it's going to be kind of close and competitive. I know Gibson's on the older side, but like I said, he's been impressing me lately, and I think he's been looking a lot better recently. I still think that he'll get the L here, but it's going to be a decent fight, and I don't think it should be too wide. If it's like minus 150 Katona, then beautiful. I'm in. But anything wider than that, I'm probably going to stay away. If it's Tiuliulin, though, now we'll do Rico Tiuliulin. The other possibility here, if he's the one who beats Gibson tonight, which I really don't think he will, his striking's pretty good. He looks really hittable to me, constantly putting himself out of position when he's striking. His defensive grappling is all right. I don't think it's that great. Getting dominated by Hunter Azure on the ground before you get the knockout, not the worst thing in the world. Azure is another guy who's still UFC caliber, in my opinion, very solid. And to get taken down and controlled by him, it's happened to a lot of guys who are still in the UFC as well. So won't give him too much fault there. But he's also been taken down in the regionals. De La Cruz, in one of his more recent fights, he did get back up there pretty quick. I think that Katona will be able to wrestle him a lot easier than he will Gibson. I think that Katona is going to outstrike him a lot easier than he will Gibson. And I would play Katona, I guess, up to around minus 200 against Rico, even though I don't know if I'm going to even want to play that. Like, no matter who it is, I kind of still want Brad Katona minus 150-ish. I just don't want to play him too much, like too chalky, just because he's not the type of guy to completely separate himself, right? He's not going to always completely separate himself and make these fights completely wide where he'll cover this minus 300, minus 250 price tag. He could fight close, and you don't want that if you're betting those odds. So we'll have to wait and see. I think Katona wins regardless, whether it's Rico Tiuliulin or Gibson. I do think it's going to be Gibson, and I think that's the harder fight. But give me Brad Katona either way. And we're going to move on to a fight that we do know is happening. We've got Maryna Moroz versus Karine Silva. Moroz is 11-4-0, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach, training out of American Top Team. Silva, 16-4-0. She's 2 years younger, 2 inches shorter, same reach. Gile Ribeiro team for her. So seeing these Tapology scores is interesting, predictions, because the odds the money's all been coming in on Moroz this entire time. And I mean, I'm one of those people. I played her at plus 145. This is a rematch. They did fight, I think, like 2014. And what happened was Silva took her down very quickly. And Moroz, she was like looking for subs. And then she hit the armbar, subbed her before round one was even over. I'm a fan of Moroz. I think she's very impressive. I even bet her against Jennifer Maia, which in hindsight is a bad bet. Shouldn't have made that one. But I think her boxing is very, very solid. I think that her wrestling, very, very solid. I think her jiu-jitsu is also very, very solid. Man, I didn't even remember this happened, that I cashed that until you just said it. I did cash her as an underdog against Agapova. She's made me money. I think she's really good. She's got that win over Mayra Bueno Silva, which has aged very well, but that was 3 years ago. So you can't put a ton of stock in there, but it is an impressive win. And Silva is a very good finisher. Bueno Silva is a really good finisher. So is Karine Silva. But the fact that she was able to survive there, it's a good sign. She's only been improving in my eyes. I know a lot of people are worried about all this stuff on Instagram, that she's spending too much time on there. I'm not concerned. I think she's fine. She's still training, still in the gym, still posting pictures there. I expect her to look great here. And I think that the wrestling and the striking is going to get it done for her, especially the cardio as well, and the experience actually going past round one often. You look at Silva, and she's been to the decision one time, and she lost in 2019 against Diane Barbosa. Barbosa is actually pretty decent. Not the best loss, not the worst loss in the world, but she honestly has never been that impressive to me. I bet her as like a huge favorite against Yang He on the Contender Series 3 fights ago. And if you don't know who Yang He is, she's teensy. Like, she's a very, very small lady. She's like 5'1", maybe even smaller, and a wrestler. And she outstruck Silva on the feet. She was landing a ton of shots for a person with a teensy reach, and she was able to get 2 takedowns. I know Silva really leans on that grappling threat, the submission threat. And could she sub Moroz? Absolutely. That's why I'm not going ham with 3 units on Maryna Moroz. I just put 1 at plus 145. But I think that Moroz also has that really good jiu-jitsu, like I mentioned. and I think it's going to be enough to defend against anything Silva throws at her. That last sub of Silva, really nice, and that's not like a common way to do it. And she's improving still, right? You can see it. I still don't think it'll be enough. And on the feet, I don't think she can hang with Moroz. I think Moroz is a better striker. Maybe Silva has more power, but technique-wise, I think it's Moroz all day. And then the cardio, right? Silva hasn't been at a round one often. She's been to a decision one time. And Moroz, she's got a ton of experience going to the decisions. She's fought tough women, still gone to a decision. So give me Maryna Moroz here. I think she wins either late or by sub, but at dog odds, I don't think you need to get funky with it. You could just play her money line and call it a day. Moving on, though, we've got Andrea Lee versus Natalia Silva. Andrea Lee is 13-7-0. She's 34 years old, 5'6" with a 69.5-inch reach. Let me double check what I've got for her. I don't have anything. We'll go with Synergy Martial Arts. Silva, 15-5-1, 26. She's 8 years younger, 2 inches shorter, 4-inch reach disadvantage. So, look, everybody loves Silva. Everybody's favorite prospect. I cashed her as an underdog against Jasmine. That was awesome. But I think we're maybe getting a little too ahead of ourselves. Like, we're parlaying Silva now at minus 350, and I think that's a little crazy. Andrea Lee, I know she's starting to, enter the tail end of her career, but she still looked good. Like, she looked good in the Barber fight. Many people thought she beat Macy Barber. It was a great fight, and she's not looking horrible, right? She still looks good. Still has her output, still has her striking. She can still wrestle. She still has solid takedown defense of her own. And to beat Andrea Lee, your best bet is probably to grapple her because her striking's pretty solid too. And Silva, she's not wrestling too much. She did in the Jasmine fight. Maybe she'll do it here. It's pretty good. Maybe she'll get the takedowns, but I think Lee will be able to defend a lot of it. And on the feet, Lee might outstrike her in terms of output. In terms of who's landing the cleaner, nicer, more powerful strikes, I think it's Natalia Silva. But I think it's going to be a closer fight, and I think it's a little crazy to play Silva at this price. So the way I'm going to be tackling it is I'm going to be looking for Silva round 3 or decision. I want to see what that's priced at, and that's really it. I considered fight goes the distance, but I do think Silva could get a late finish. Andrea Lee isn't easy to finish, but Silva is very dangerous, and I know I said like she shouldn't be minus 350, but at the same time, she is a very good prospect. She is still young. She is still improving. And I love her striking. Like, I think her striking is really good. Really like the combos. Really like how she mixes it up. And I do think she should beat Andrea Lee. I just think it's going to be a relatively close fight compared to Silva's other fights. I mean, this is not Victoria Leonardo, right? It's just not. Leonardo, maybe as durable as she is, she's not very good. Andrea Lee, even at this age, even at this stage in her career, she's only 34. It's not like she's ancient. At this stage of her career, though, she's still pretty good, and I think she's much better than Victoria Leonardo. So give me Natalia Silva, but I think it's close, and I'll be looking for that round 3 or decision prop for her. Moving on, we've got Gerald Meerschaert versus Andre Petroski. Meerschaert, he's 35-16-0, 35 years old, 6'1" at the 77-inch reach. Aguilar Combative Systems is what we've got here for him. Petroski, 9-1-0. He's 3 years younger at 32, 1 inch shorter, 4-inch reach disadvantage. Renzo Gracie Philly is where he used to train. As far as I'm aware, that camp no longer exists. Most of them have left and gone other places. I don't know where Petroski is now, but I'm almost positive that camp no longer exists. So I don't think he's at Renzo Gracie Philly anymore. I was told this a few months ago when I was breaking down another Renzo Gracie guy. And since then, anytime an old Renzo Gracie Philly guy has fought, I've checked their Instagram and it looks like they're elsewhere. So I don't know where Petroski is, but I don't think he's there anymore. So this matchup's really interesting. There's potential that it'll look like the Jotko Meerschaert fight where Jotko was able to wrestle but stay safe. And even Stoltzfus was able to do that in their fight, right? I had Stoltzfus as the underdog. He was able to wrestle with Meerschaert. He was able to win minutes on the ground. And he was winning that damn fight until he got finished. I think it was a rear naked, if I remember correctly. I think it was in round 3. Let me double check. It doesn't say the round, but it was a rear naked. And it was just a classic Meerschaert thing. I cashed him against Bruno Silva. That was beautiful. Pretty sure that was also a round 3 sub. He's just got this way of breaking people, even though he's also dying himself. Like, it's not like his cardio is elite. He's got decent cardio, but he's usually exhausted himself. But he still pulls it out of his almost said trying not to use bad language. We finally got monetized. I don't know to what extent I can or can't do it, but he pulls it out of his hat every time. Not every time, but a lot of times. And I think this might be a decent matchup for him to do it again. I think early it's Petroski all day. I think Petroski's going to have a lot of success getting those early takedowns. I think he's going to have a lot of success staying safe, keeping that neck safe, not getting submitted. He's got really good jiu-jitsu, so it's not like he's easy to submit, and he's got good wrestling of his own. Like I mentioned, he's got great top control. The thing is, though, he did get submitted by Bryan Battle, right? And how'd that happen? He was winning, out wrestling Bryan Battle, and then he got tired, and Bryan Battle broke him and then choked him out. Meerschaert will do that. He'll be in your face. He'll keep moving forward, and if you can't handle the heat, he's going to find a way to either get you down or submit you standing. So I think Petroski wins. I'll make him my pick, but I wouldn't bet him. Definitely wouldn't bet him. His cardio also is not great. He's also going to be tired in round 2 and round 3, especially if he's having to wrestle a lot. Meerschaert's not really the kind of guy to be able to defend a lot of takedowns and really make him work. So maybe he won't get tired, but from what I've seen, I think he's going to get tired either way, especially if Meerschaert is pressuring him, which I do expect him to do. I think Petroski wins, but the way I'm going to be looking to bet it is Meerschaert late round 2 and round 3 submissions. I want to see what other books give me. I saw plus 2,900 on the round 3 sub. That's pretty solid, and I'll play that if we don't get better, but I'm waiting patiently. I want to see what we get on like FanDuel and all those books, and we'll see if I actually end up playing it. I'll pick Petroski. He's the younger, fresher guy. He's the guy who should probably win this as long as he can stay safe. But to me, he just seems like a guy who can break under pressure, and that's a perfect matchup for Meerschaert to pull a dub. So we'll move on. But Meerschaert round 3 sub, round 2 sub is the way I'm going to look to tackle it. All right, next up, we've got Gregory Rodrigues versus Denis Tiuliulin. Rodrigues 13-5-0, 31 years old. He's 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Tiuliulin on the other side, he's 11-7-0. He's 4 years older at 35, 2 inches shorter, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Believe he's out of Extreme Couture. Not positive where Greg's at. So I think he might be at Sanford MMA, actually. I want to double check. I feel like my memory tells me Sanford. Yeah, he's at Killcliff, Sanford FC, so good camp. In terms of the matchup, I mean, I think everybody's kind of on the same page here. Greg Rodrigues, amazing jiu-jitsu, very credentialed, very good wrestling, great back take. The figure 4 is very, very good, hard to get out of. But he doesn't show much urgency on the ground, and he just continues to want to strike. Like, he doesn't fight smart at all, doesn't fight to his strength at all. Even when he's fighting a guy like Andre Petrosian, he's still choosing to strike, and it cost him the fight, even though I do think he still won that one. I did have him there, so maybe I'm just biased. But I think that if he chooses to wrestle here, Denis actually has pretty decent takedown defense. It's like 77%, something like that. Showed a pretty good takedown defense against Hizriev on short notice. Even on the regionals when he fought Ikram, thought his takedown defense looked pretty good. His takedown defense is solid, but I do think Rodrigues can get him down if he's shooting. I think that if he does shoot, he can get that rear naked relatively easily. And that's how I bet him. I did play him by submission at plus 200. Now, it's not like he has to wrestle. He does have really good hands of his own. His boxing's really solid, and his power is definitely there. He's got really nice power. But Denis is also a really good boxer. He's got very solid striking, fast hands, nice combinations. He'll go to the body, which I love. And Greg doesn't have a very good chin. Like, even before he got knocked out by Bruno in his last fight, he's been wobbled in a lot of his fights. And even in the, was it Park? I believe it was Park that he knocked out. Yeah, Jun Park. When they fought, if you guys haven't seen that one, run it back, especially that last round, because what happened was Jun Park hurt Rodrigues, put him on his back foot. It looked like he was going to put him away. And then Greg hits him a few more times, and he puts him out of there. Very similar to when Draco Rodriguez fought Beneil Dariush. So the chin of Rodrigues, very concerning, and that's why you really want him to grapple here. I do think he should dominate, even if he doesn't grapple. As long as that chin holds in there, his striking should be close up to par with Denis. So give me Greg here. I can't parlay him at this price, and I don't think anybody else should. He should roll. He really should. if he fights smart, but he might not. And you'll be really upset if you see him not shooting takedowns and he just gets hit by Denis with a few nice combinations and put out. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. Denis is definitely a live dog here. I just can't get there with the grappling deficiency and the fact that Rodrigues is a really good grappler. So I played the submission at plus 200. Let me see if that's still around. I know people got an even better line. There was like plus 260 at one point. Seeing plus 170 on Bet Online. We'll see what other books give. I think it's playable closer to plus 200. I wouldn't really play it much lower. I would play it around there, maybe plus 190, but anything lower, I'd probably just pass. But I do think Greg wins, and we'll move on. All right, next up, we've got Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. Weidman, he's 15-6-0, 39 years old. He's 6'2" with the 78-inch reach. Tavares, 19-8-0, 35. He's 4 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and he's at a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Look, I mean, it's not a surprise. I like Tavares here. Weidman, he's 39 years old, got a terrible injury in his last fight. I know it's been quite some time since then, 2 years, over 2 years. But even before that, I just don't think Chris Weidman is what we remember. Like, that was years ago, guys. He's not himself anymore. He still has the wrestling, still a pretty good wrestler, but he's not as explosive. The striking's not there, and he's very hittable recently. Brad Tavares, very good takedown defense. Weidman might still get him down, but I think Tavares will be able to keep it on the feet for the most part. I think his get-ups are solid, too. I expect him to be able to get back up on his feet. And his striking is very solid. He's not an exceptional striker by any means, but I think he's the better striker here. I think he's a more trustworthy guy. I don't expect him to get finished by Weidman. I really don't. And I think he might get a finish of his own, even though he's not a great finisher. I think he'll be able to outwork Weidman. I think he'll be able to defend it and stuff any takedowns. I think he'll be able to get up if he is taken down. And I think he'll be able to outstrike him, maybe hurt him. So not really too much to say here. Relatively quick breakdown, but I like Brad Tavares. I don't see a need to beat a dead horse. It's relatively simple for this one. I did parlay him. I don't think you should do it too much because at the end of the day, Tavares isn't remarkable by any means. And Weidman, he still works, right? He can still wrestle. I guess he can pull a dub out. I don't think it's likely. And I think you can parlay Tavares. I would just keep it to a unit stake around there for your parlays. I parlayed him with Ian Garry, extremely square. It was like minus 450 on Garry, but we'll talk about it once we get closer to that fight. Moving on, we've got Marlon Vera versus Pedro Muhnoz. Marlon Vera, he's 22-8-1, 30 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. On the other side, Muhnoz, 27-0, he's 36 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach, so he's 2 inches shorter, and he's got a 5-inch reach disadvantage here. Look, I like Marlon Vera here. I do. I have 2 units down on him at minus 180. But I will say, out of all the underdogs on the card, I think Pedro Muhnoz is one of the most live ones, along with Maryna Moroz. Muhnoz, even at 36 at bantamweight, which isn't great, and he has looked less and less good, he's still looking good. And against competition that's not top-notch, he's winning. I bet him against Chris Gutierrez. That was an awesome cash. I thought he looked very solid there. Really good power. The striking is still there. He does kind of leave himself open with the way he's winging his shots, and I do think he's pretty hittable these days. He's got decent striking defense at 57%. That's numbers-wise, but he's had so many fights in the UFC. I don't think it's been as good recently, but he is still a very well-rounded striker. He's still got very solid takedown defense, and he can wrestle himself. He doesn't do it very often at all, but when he does, it's decent. An 81% takedown defense, I mean, that's nothing to scoff at, especially at this sample size with this many UFC fights. I think he's very live, especially because Vera starts so slow, right? I mean, you probably already heard this a million times this week, that Vera starts slow, something we all know. He doesn't often win round one, similar to Peter Yan, which is why that fight would have been funny. Probably nobody wins round one in that one, but that could be a problem, right? It could definitely be a problem because Muhnoz, if he picks it up, and he might be difficult to win another 2 rounds off of if he picks up the first. I do think Vera will win. I think it's going to be based off of damage. I love the striking of Vera. He's very unique with it. He's hard to predict, and particularly, I love the elbows. I love the knees. He's one of these guys who fights like he wants to kill you. He's extremely violent. He wants to bring the pain. He wants to see you hurt, and he absolutely does that. And he's also got a decent jiu-jitsu game as well. 10 submission wins, more than he has knockouts. Actually, he's got 8 knockouts, 10 subs. Very, very dangerous guy. Can finish it either way. I do think that a knockout is probably more likely if he does get a finish, but I don't think he does. I think he wins by decision. I think it's based off of damage. I think that Muhnoz is probably going to land more, at least in the early stages of the fight. But I think he might just land more over 15 minutes overall. But I think that Vera will be the one landing the damaging strikes. He's the one who's probably going to mess up Muhnoz's face a little bit. And I think he's going to be able to get the dub here. But a close fight. I wouldn't go too nuts. I was comfortable with 2 units, but anybody betting Muhnoz, I don't hate it. If I had to bet another underdog on this fight, this is probably one of the ones I would look towards. I do think he's live, like I mentioned, because of the fact that Vera could start slow. But if he doesn't, if Vera knows what he needs to do, right? If he pulls up to this fight and he's like, no more, there's no reason he can't win round 1. He doesn't not have like the technique or the ability to do so. And the cardio is clearly there because it's the first round. He just needs a second to kind of read his opponents, get going. But I don't think that means he can't start faster. Maybe he will. And then if he picks up round 1, I definitely think he's going to pick up at least another one, whether that's round 2 or round 3. And then I think he's going to get the decision comfortably. But we'll have to wait and see. It's not something he does often. Give me Marlon Vera. I'm really excited to see him fight again. You know, he lost against Sandhagen. That's okay. Sandhagen has been very, very solid recently. I know we're all upset about his Rob Font fight that he didn't strike, but something with his elbow. If he really had an injury, fighting smart, I don't hate it. It makes sense. Preserve your career. Keep getting those dubs. Can't hate on him. Not a terrible loss for Vera. Crazy that a judge gave that fight to Vera. I don't understand how that's even remotely possible, but nonetheless, I'm excited to see him back. I think this is a really good matchup and a hard test for him. It's not a layup by any means, and I wouldn't go max betting Marlon Vera, but I think he's going to win this fight, and I think he's going to win this fight by decision. And we'll move on. All right, so for this one, I'm going to have a little bit less to say because like I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't have time to tape this fight. It got announced like today, but I did tape Bautista for Garbrandt. Thought he was going to kill Garbrandt, and I taped Blackshear for literally last week because that's when he fought and submitted Jose Johnson. I had 3 units on him there at like minus 180-ish. Don't remember the exact line. And that was such a clean cash. I mean, he looked fantastic. The striking, I'll talk about him in a second. Let me intro the fighters first. So Mario Bautista versus Damon Blackshear. Bautista 12-2-0. He's 30 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. MMA lab for him, which is a very, very good camp for bantamweight. Training with guys like Sean O'Malley, Casey Kenny, Kyler Phillips. Great camp to be at that weight. Blackshear, 14-5-1. He's 29. He's 1 year younger, 1 inch taller, which I'm actually surprised to see. I thought Bautista would be the taller man, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. So I'm not sure if this fight's at bantamweight or catchweight. Tapology says bantamweight, and I haven't seen anything about a catchweight, which is surprising because Blackshear literally fought last week, and now he's going to have to cut weight again to bantamweight. And he's a big man. He's 5'10" at bantamweight, and he's not thin either. He's very built. So to make that cut again, that's why I'm not jumping all over him as an underdog. I probably will get to him anyways because, I mean, people are going nuts over Bautista here. He's getting bet down a lot. The line kind of went back up a little bit. It opened at, so FightOdds.io, it shows it opened at minus 270, but they're just slow. I saw it open on BetOnline. He opened at minus 175, which I thought was pretty good and probably playable here. I didn't get to it, and the next thing I know, he's like minus 270. Now he's minus 211. So it's going back and forth a little bit. But I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till people start putting together parlays. I'm going to wait till they start throwing Bautista into their parlays, and then I'll probably hop onto Blackshear, and let me explain why. So on the Bautista side, really impressive dude, constantly improving, extremely well-rounded. He can strike. He can grapple. He's got fantastic jiu-jitsu. Very solid striking, really good output. He's dangerous, nice combinations, mixes it up really well. Hard to read the guy. And his takedown defense is pretty good, but honestly, I think it's being overrated a little bit. I mean, nobody who's getting taken down by Jay Perrin twice should be like rated highly in the takedown defense department. And I understand it was just one fight, but still, like, it just didn't look great to me. And I just don't think his takedown defense is elite by any means. And I do think that Blackshear is going to get him down. I really do. I think early in this fight, I think Blackshear is going to look really good. And maybe if you're on Bautista, maybe wait and you can live bet him. That might be a way to do it, because if the weight cut's going to hurt Blackshear, it's going to be one of two ways, right? Or both. Either his cardio is going to be out of whack and he's going to gas quick, which is very possible, or his chin might not be there, right? Because he's cutting so quickly, chin might not be there, and he can get clipped late. And if you combine those two, if the cardio is not there and the chin's not there, Bautista picking up a round 2, round 3 finish won't be shocking at all. I bet the odds on those are going to be horrible, but I think that's when he gets the win. If he does, I think it's going to be late. I do think he could win a decision here, but look, if the weight cut doesn't affect him badly, Blackshear has a strong wrestling edge here, in my opinion. He himself has really good jiu-jitsu as well. Do I think he subs Bautista? No, but I think that his jiu-jitsu is good enough to defend anything Bautista throws at him. And I think that his striking is also really solid and better than I expected watching him early and watching his regional film when he was making his debut against Zalal. His striking has looked really impressive. And the power, right? Every time he hits the guys, when he was landing on Jose Johnson, you just heard it. The impact from his shots. It's so strong. And on the ground, it's the same thing. Like, his ground and pound is vicious. That's how he finished Lon Lacerda. And I had Lacerda there. I did not expect that. I really didn't. I did play Blackshear by knockout in his last one, hoping for a similar result, but he ended up deciding to go for what was it? A twister, which I think has only happened 2 other times, right? Korean Zombie got one, and damn it. Who got the other one? I don't remember off the top of my head, but another very solid guy. Or was it a woman? If I remember, I'll tell you guys. But regardless, I think that Damon is very live. I think I am going to bet him. It's going to be small because we have to recognize everything, right? Damon just fought literally last week, an insane turnaround that we haven't seen too often. And other than for Hamzat, it doesn't often work for people. Lupita Godinez tried it. Wasn't the best way for her. So we'll see how it works out. It's cool of him to take the opportunity. It makes sense. I mean, if he comes in here, wins another really impressive win after getting a twister in his last one, I mean, it's going to be really good for him. I don't know. It's a really tough one, though. And like I said, Bautista is very dangerous. And if there is any problems in that weight cut, Bautista will probably exploit it. If the cardio starts to go and Blackshear shooting, Bautista could maybe hip over and end up being the one on top. So in terms of my pick, I want to just pick Blackshear anyways. I guess I'll pick Bautista pending more tape. Like I mentioned, I didn't get to tape this one because it got announced today. I work, I get home late, and then I had to do the show. So watch out for my Twitter. That's where I post all my picks when I make them. I'll try to add like a little bit of an explanation. I normally don't because I break down fights here, but because I can't do it extensively, I'll do as much as I can on Twitter. And also in my Discord, I'll post a little breakdown. I have a little section for those. If I end up betting either guy, I'll post it there. I'll pick Bautista, like I said, but I think Blackshear is really live, and that's the side I'm looking to bet. I won't be putting money on Bautista. Maybe if he drops back down to like minus 175 and I like what I see on the tape, then maybe I'll do it, because I do think that this weight cut might be really hard for Blackshear. But if it doesn't change, and especially if I see this fight is at catch weight, I'm gonna be on Blackshear. I more than likely will have a half unit on the guy, but we'll have to wait and see. Got to tape it, like I said. We'll pick Bautista for now, and we'll move on. All right, next up, we've got Neil Magny versus Ian Garry. Magny, 28-10-0, 36 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach, trading out of Elevation. Pretty sure he's still there. Garry, 12-0. He's 11 years younger, same height. He's going to have a 6-inch reach disadvantage, training out of Killcliff. But he moves around a lot, right? He's going to a lot of different gyms, and even when he's staying at Killcliff, he's training with a lot of new guys. Chris Curtis was over there, which was interesting to see Curtis training at Killcliff. He's normally at Extreme Couture. He probably wanted a little bit of a change of scenery. He was supposed to fight soon against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and he's out now. Might be that video that we all saw, Garry and Chris Curtis sparring, and something happened to Curtis's rib, and he wanted to keep sparring, and Garry was like, dude, no, we're done. We're done. Don't do this. Don't be tough. You don't have to be tough in front of us. And it was good to see from Garry. I guess that's why Curtis is out of his fight, though. And in terms of this fight, Magny is also a short notice replacement. He was supposed to, Gary was originally supposed to fight a different Neal. He was supposed to fight Jeff Neal, which would have been a really good fight. And I actually had Neal as an underdog at plus 200. I put a half unit on there. And I don't want anybody to think I'm one of these guys who's just looking to fade Ian Gary. I'm really not, even though in the past I have. I'm very much over that. I had him in the Kenan Song fight. Was that his last one? No, he had the D-Rod fight too. I by no means am I constantly trying to fade him. I'm not. I'm over that stage of my life. I acknowledge how great the guy is. But against Neal, that was a tough fight. I don't think that was an easy fight for him. And I think it's a fight that he definitely could have lost. I think he probably would have won it anyways. But at plus 200, I couldn't pass up that shot. But in this one, I think it's a really hard fight for Neil Magny, especially watching him recently at 36. It seems like he's starting to finally decline a bit. He's still competing at a high level, beating good guys, losing to good guys. But that Phil Rowe fight, I had Magny there, and I was really, really confident in him, particularly because of the wrestling. And he just didn't look great. His wrestling's really good. His top control is really good. The jiu-jitsu's there, got good back takes. He's a decent striker. He does use that reach advantage pretty well. He can keep his range decent. And for a guy who's primarily a grappler, I'd say that his striking is actually pretty good. But by no means is he even close to Gary's level of striking. I think that if Magny's not wrestling here, if he's just trying to clinch up, do a bunch of cage pushing, not getting those takedowns when he shoots for them, I think he's kind of screwed. And I think Gary's probably going to knock him out. I think Gary finishes him here at a pretty high clip. And I saw a lot of people on the inside of the distance props. Can't blame them. I personally don't want to do it because Gary, he's a good finisher, but it's not always there. It's not always there. And Neil Magny can be a hard guy to finish sometimes. I do think Gary finished him more than likely. I just don't want to put my money on it. I think he probably knocks him out. I'm seeing some people on his sub prop. It's an interesting way to look at it. I don't really see it personally, but I don't hate it. I think he can get a finish regardless. And if you're still getting plus money, I would just take the finish. I wouldn't pick which way to do it. I think a decision's possible too, though. So all I did was I did a classic Chalk Boy parlay. It's my only one of the week. Gary Tavares, minus 130, 1.4 units. I liked it quite a bit. That was when Gary was minus 370. I honestly didn't expect it to keep going and going and going this wide. It makes sense. And I do think he's a rightful wide favorite. He's the much better striker, great takedown defense of his own, really good get-ups, constantly improving, only 25, 11 years younger. I mean, there's a lot to love about Gary and not so much to love about Neil Magny. Neil Magny has been a money train for me. I mean, the dude has made me a lot of money as an underdog. Should have cashed him against Max Griffin, another guy I love betting on as an underdog. But I just don't think this is it for Magny. I think this is a really difficult fight for him. So I like Ian Gary here. Shocker at minus 500. And we'll move on. Real quick, let me catch up with the chat. It's only one person. Wanted X. I love you too, brother. We love you. We love you. I'm your biggest fan. I highly doubt it. Let's go. Let's go indeed, brother. All right, so we'll move on, though. Thank you guys all for watching, by the way. Appreciate every single one of you. We've got 15 live viewers right now in the chat. You guys are dope. Thanks for watching me here on a Tuesday night. And I'm pretty sure the Ultimate Fighter is still happening. By the way, if anybody's watching and the fight has already happened or is happening, could you hop in the chat and just let me know who won, Gibson or DeSulio? Because I'll circle back to that breakdown and do it a little nicer knowing who's actually fighting Katona. But it's okay if not. I'll check it out later and make a post. Moving on, though, we've got Weili Zhang versus Amanda Lemos for the UFC Strawweight Championship. Awesome fight. Weili Zhang, 23-3-0. She's 34 years old. 5'4" with a 63-inch reach. On the other side, Lemos, she's 13-2-1. 36, she's 2 years older, but neither of them is a spring chicken. We're talking 34, 36, not a huge difference. 5'4", same height, which is shocking, actually. I thought she was going to be taller than her, and maybe she is. Maybe we'll see at face-offs, because, you know, these UFC stats sometimes, the Tapology heights, reaches, they're not always correct. My favorite example, Jairzinho Rosenstruck, 6'3". Pretty sure he's my height. I don't think he's any taller than like 5'11", which I'm not 5'11". I'm shorter, but I don't think he's any taller than that. So UFC stats, Tapology, they're not always correct with height. And I do think she's probably taller, but whatever. We're not going to sit here and guess over an inch or two. And she's got a 2-inch reach advantage over Zhang. So Weili is so good. And I understand why everyone's super hype on her. I understand why a lot of people think she's going to smoke Lemos. I don't think she's going to smoke her. I think she probably wins, but I get it. The Esparza win, super dominant. And after watching the Rose Esparza fight, I think everybody was like, okay, this is what we expected out of Rose. This is what should have happened. And Weili pulled up and probably did it better than Rose could have. So that was really impressive. The Joanna fight, I played Joanna there, which was a huge mistake. Beautiful performance by Weili. Beautiful knockout. That was sick. And, the 2 Rose fights, the head kick, I'm a huge Rose fan. I disowned her after that Esparza fight. I mean, that's just, can't come back from that, at least for me as a fan. But that head kick was beautiful when she knocked out Weili. And it did show, Weili could be finished, but you got to catch her off guard, right? You got to hit her with something she doesn't see coming, like Rose did with that head kick. That was out of nowhere. Boom, caught her, knocked her down. And then the decision, I know a lot of people felt strongly one way or the other, all over the place. I felt that Rose won. Again, I had Rose there. At the time, I was still a fan, so maybe I've got those goggles on. But it was a very close fight nonetheless. She showed that she's got decent wrestling now. She's improved in that aspect. The grappling is definitely there. The wrestling is definitely there. Her own takedown defense, honestly, in my opinion, isn't that great. I understand against Esparza, like it wasn't a problem, but I do still think that's kind of a hole in the game of Weili. But like it's not a big one, right? And I have to point out some things because she's not perfect, but she's at a very, very high level. She's really good. So I gotta try to do a little devil's advocate. Now, Lemos on the other side, she's impressive and she's not. Depends on the fight, right? I think she's really solid though in her own right. I do think she deserves this shot, and I'm hyped to see this one. She's got really good power of her own. I really like her striking. I think the technique is there, and she is unorthodox with her striking as well. She'll have her hands down sometimes, and you won't know where those strikes are coming from. Maybe she can catch her by surprise like Rose did, but is it going to be the same as a kick? I mean, maybe. Her hands are really, really strong. I mean, she's got a lot of power. So if she catches her flush with something Weili wasn't expecting, it could put her down. And she's also got a decent submission grappling game. I don't really think she subs Weili, but she could, especially if Weili's pushing the takedown plan. If she's shooting for takedowns, I do think Lemos will be live. Maybe a guillotine, maybe something else off the ground. I think Weili wins this, but at plus 300, where I got Lemos, I had to take a shot because I don't think she's a scrub by any means. I personally don't think Weili runs through her. And my only problem with Lemos is her output. If she had better output, I'd be way more confident in taking a shot on her because I think that the striking technique-wise is up to par. I think it's close. I think I edge Weili, but I think it's relatively close. And I think the power kind of balances it out a little bit. But the output is my problem. I don't like low-output fighters, and her output isn't too great. She does fight really close. The Angela Hill fight wasn't a good look. Thought she lost that one. I had Hill as a gigantic underdog. What can you do? If she gets extended here, I mean, again, this is probably not something new you've heard. You've probably heard this all week because Lemos's cardio isn't that great, and we've seen Weili fight 5 rounds already, and she does not gas. Her cardio, her gas tank is fantastic. If we leave round 2, round 3, Weili is definitely going to start to look a lot better, and I think she's going to run away with it. But I think that Lemos, especially early, is going to keep it close. So at plus 300, I wanted to take a shot. Definitely didn't want to parlay Weili. Just don't want to. Think it's a little bit too wide, this line. And I took that shot on Lemos as the underdog. Think it's going to come early if she does win. Think it's a knockout or a sub. ITD might be another way to do it. But when she's plus 300, I don't see a reason to get fancy. Just take the money line shot and call it a day if you like Lemos. If you like Weili, I think the way to do it is look at the late props. Can she get an early finish? Yeah, she probably can. She probably can. I think she can do it against most women. She's very, very good, very strong, and very well-rounded. But I just don't think it's going to happen here. Personally, I don't think it's going to be a later finish for Weili. So if you're playing her, I'd look at round 3, 4, or 5, right? I might look myself at round 4 or 5, kind of hedge my Lemos bet because I think that's when it's going to happen for Weili. I also wouldn't be terribly shocked if we did go to a decision. I see people really, really liking the under, and I totally get it. And it's mostly because of the Lemos side and because Weili's a good finisher. But I wouldn't be shocked if this is a closer fight and one where we don't see a finish and Weili ends up winning, maybe using her wrestling, right? So I wouldn't go too crazy on violence, but round 3, round 4, round 5 for Weili, I think those are the best ways to play her. And Lemos, I think you could just play the money line if you like her like I do, because plus 300, you really don't have no reason to get fancy there. It's not there anymore. I actually didn't realize that. I thought it was still sitting there. It's plus 240 now, which at that point, I think pass. At plus 240 pass, or wait and see what happens with Weili, because minus 280 starting to get a lot closer to what I thought the line realistically should have been. So that's interesting, actually. I'm surprised money's still coming in on Lemos. I do like her to win. Like I said, I picked her here. I have a half unit on her, but Weili is a very, very good fighter, and the lower this line gets on her, the more tempting she's going to be. And I think it's starting to get close to playable at minus 280. So I like Lemos here, though, and we're going to move on to our main event. Mr. Octopus saying Weili's wrestling has been great, and I agree 100%. It's come a long way, looks very solid, and definitely something I think she's going to go to here, and something that she can go to here. So, like I said, I do think she should win. She'll be my actual pick, but my bet is on Lemos because, look, I bet numbers. That's what I do. And my favorite stat on BetMMA is my huge underdog stat. It's 33% ROI, my highest one I have. And I love huge underdogs. I don't force them. I bet them only when I see a path. And I see a path here, so I'm taking my shot. And we're going to move on to the next fight. For our main event, we've got the UFC Bantamweight Championship. We got Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley, a fight I'm very much looking forward to. Sterling, 23-3-0. He's 34 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Serra-Longo, we know where he trains with Merab. And, those guys, they've been moving around a lot. I've seen them in a lot of gyms when I'm taping other fighters and looking on Instagram, trying to see where they're training. Sometimes I'll randomly see Sterling or Merab in their pictures. Looks like they spent some time at Extreme Couture. So that's interesting. And I like that. I like when fighters move around and check out other camps. It's not like he left Serra-Longo. He just went to go cross-train somewhere else, still training under Ray Longo, who has been a fantastic coach for him. I mean, he's been a fantastic coach in general. They got another dub today on the Contender Series, and most of them have been looking really good. I know some people are crapping on the camp now because of Bazooka. Bazooka's not bad, guys. It's just like people hammered him as an underdog because of the camp, because of the wrestling, and because they don't like Woodson. But Woodson, like, I understand hindsight's 2020, but like, come on, he was the side there. He has good takedown defense. He's very long, good get-up game, and his striking was much, much better, much more experience in the UFC octagon, and he wasn't the short-notice guy. I don't think you should give Bazooka a ton of crap for that. Woodson's not a bad fighter. Everybody hates him because they lost their parlays. Well, didn't lose. They didn't cash their parlays with him and Saldana. They didn't like that performance. I had Saldana there. I hated his performance. Freaking idiot. Gets the knockdown, doesn't go after it, just tries to get the walk away knockout. It was just so stupid. And then he throws a knee on a grounded opponent, loses a point. But long story short, it's still a good camp, and I wouldn't hate on it just because of Bazooka. Now, O'Malley, 16-1-0, 28. He's 6 years younger. He's going to be 4 inches taller and have a 1-inch reach advantage. He's training out of MMA Lab. So like I said, fantastic camp for this weight class. Casey Kenny, Kyler Phillips, Mario Bautista. Also got Marcus McGee as a training partner, a guy who's very solid. Made me eat my words with JP Buys. I bet JP. I always knew that he can get knocked out, right? I'm not an idiot. I do my tape. I do my homework. I knew that JP could get knocked out, and that's why I didn't hammer him, even though I really liked him in that matchup. And, my concern happened, and I was proven wrong in terms of picking JP. But anyways, back to this one. 28 years old. Okay, yeah, we went over it. So I like Sterling here. I get that it's kind of a square take to just say, I'll grapple him. But, like, what am I supposed to say? To me, personally, it's pretty clear that he's going to out-grapple him. I hear a lot of people pushing this narrative now that the UFC wants O'Malley. The UFC wants O'Malley. The UFC's pushing O'Malley. And there's some fair points because they're clearly setting him up, right? They gave him a huge break, 1 year off. Sterling's only been out, I think, 3 months since the Cejudo fight. literally 3 months. I was there live. Live, I thought Cejudo won. Running it back, I do think Sterling won. When I was at the stadium, though, I mean, we all thought Cejudo won. Everyone there, no matter where you turned your head, thought Cejudo won, which was so crazy because it was the opposite on Twitter, where everyone thought Sterling won. So it really shows you what a difference it makes where you're sitting, if you're at home in front of the TV with a really good view, or if you're sitting in the stadium. So that was a close fight, but it's matchups make fights. And Cejudo was a hard matchup for Sterling because Cejudo's a very good grappler in his own right, a really good wrestler, an Olympian with good takedown defense, amazing counter grappling, really good scrambles, and really good striking as well. This is a different matchup because while Sean O'Malley is leagues ahead of Cejudo in the striking and might be one of the better strikers in this division, if not one of the best, his grappling isn't there still. And like, I understand he hasn't really been shot on recently. We don't have too much film of his recent takedown defense, but I mean, we have Peter Yan, right? 1 year ago, we have Peter Yan going D1 and taking him down a ton of times, getting control on him, almost taking his back. I mean, those are situations where Sterling would have dominated. Sterling, I used to hate the guy because I was the biggest Peter Yan fan. I loved him. I had a ton of money on him, way more than I could afford to lose when he got disqualified against Sterling. I hated that. And instead of being angry at Yan, I was angry at Sterling. And then I hated him, bet Yan in their rematch, lost that one. A lot of us think Yan won. I still think he won, but there's definitely an argument to be made for Sterling winning. That first round was just nothing happened. So it's a very hard one to judge. And I'm not shocked that Sterling got that dub, especially running it back. But I say all this because it's not like I've just always been riding Sterling. I've been a huge critic of his. I don't think his striking is that good. I think he's very hittable. And I think the cardio could be questionable. But, I mean, how many times does he have to fight 5 rounds, show that his cardio is still not that bad, that he can wrestle through it, he can work through it for us to finally be like, okay, maybe the cardio is not a huge concern. And I also don't think his striking is horrible either. Should he stand and bang with Sean O'Malley? Hell no. Hell no. That's a recipe for disaster. But it's not like he can't set up his takedowns. I don't think he's going to be diving across the cage. I know we've seen it sometimes, but the dude is a really, really good wrestler. There's no doubt about it. And it's not just outside of MMA. Some guys are super credentialed to come into MMA and their wrestling just doesn't look that good. It doesn't transfer to MMA. It definitely transfers for Sterling. The wrestling is really solid. And they call him a human backpack. He calls himself a human backpack for a reason. And I get that it could be boring to watch sometimes. But when you're betting money, sometimes boring is good. If your fighter's winning and it's boring, that's a really good thing because you know your fighter's not in danger. So I could care less. As a fan, of course, I want exciting fights. But as someone who's putting my money on these guys, I rather it's a boring fight where they win dominantly but quietly. So if he's sitting here backpacking Sterling, not getting a submission, I could care less because I've got money on Sterling. I did play him. I played him at minus 245. I put 2.5 units on him. And I just think that the gap in the wrestling is wider than the gap in the striking. If you've seen my shows, it's something I talk about a lot. If there's a gap somewhere and it's wider than the gap elsewhere, that might be a spot to look at, right? I think that the grappling here, the difference is just very, very large. And O'Malley, he does train at a good gym with good jiu-jitsu, where they train jiu-jitsu well. You see these guys come out. All of them have nice submission grappling game. Most of them, not O'Malley so much, but Kyler Phillips is a good example. So he won't be a fish out of water on the ground, but he's just going to be out of his depth, right? He's going to be fighting a guy who is just a better wrestler than anything he's seen. He hasn't fought anyone close to Sterling in terms of wrestling. He just hasn't. It's a fact. It's not like a thing that you can decide maybe or not. It's a fact. He's never fought a wrestler like Aljamain Sterling. He's never fought someone with the top control of Aljamain Sterling. He just hasn't. And has Sterling fought a striker like O'Malley? No. He fought Peter Yan, who's also a really good striker, but they're different, right? And I'm not even doing MMA math because O'Malley beat Yan, whatever. Like, I just think they're different strikers, and O'Malley is more dangerous to Sterling than Yan is because he has that range. And he could keep him at range, and he could land really nice combinations and strikes. I'll touch more on that in a second. But I think Sterling has faced really good strikers, and handled them accordingly, and has been able to wrestle them. Whereas Sean O'Malley, like I just said, hasn't fought a wrestler like Sterling. So I just think that wrestling and grappling will be too much for him. Now, if he is able to defend, if he is able to keep it on the feet, O'Malley's striking is fantastic. I mean, there's nothing bad to say about his striking. Some of the best in the game, extremely fast, very unique, mixes it up. He'll throw basics. He'll hit you with a jab, a 1-2, and then he'll do some crazy stuff. He'll go dribble, take a 3-pointer, and then hit you with something else. You know, he's very unique, and it's hard to read, and it's a good thing, especially against a guy like Sterling who maybe he'll be shooting, timing his takedowns, but timing them incorrectly because he doesn't expect what Sean O'Malley's bringing next, and O'Malley can catch him. Definitely a possibility. Wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. I just don't think that O'Malley's going to get enough time to work on the feet. He's got great output when he does, and he'll outstrike Sterling. There's very little doubt in my mind if they're on the feet all 5 rounds. I just don't think they're going to, and we have to look at the matchups. We have to consider both sides, and I have a hard time seeing O'Malley survive the grappling of Sterling. Do I necessarily think Sterling is going to get a submission here? I think at a decent clip he does, but I think it's almost like 50-50, a decision for Sterling or a sub for Sterling. So for me, I just played his money line. I thought minus 240 was very much playable. It's a really big wrestling gap, and for me, that's very important. It's one thing if there's a wrestling gap, but the person who has that wrestling advantage can't set up their takedowns. They're just going to be panic shooting the whole time. That's not Sterling. He can set up his takedowns. Maybe he'll panic shoot a few times if Sean O'Malley clips him, but he's going to be setting them up. He's going to be landing them, and I think ultimately he's going to beat Sean O'Malley. I see a lot of people hammering the under. I mean, there's so many people on the under, and I understand, but like, when was the last time Sterling got knocked out? It was against Marlon, right? Not Marlon Vera. What's his name? I'm the worst. Dude who keeps getting knocked out. I think he finally retired. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm the worst. How I don't remember this stuff. Marlon Moroz. Right before I actually saw his name, I remembered. Marlon Moroz knocked him out. That was a while ago, and like, it was a really heavy shot. And Sean O'Malley, I don't think he has the craziest power. Hey. No. Don't say that. I actually said he's not Marlon Vera. I said Marlon, not Vera. Okay? I did not say that. Now he's going to spam that. I said Cheeto, whatever. I'm not going to fucking sit here and fight with a guy named Wanted X. James Dunbar, tail you every week. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for tailing me. Always makes me nervous when people do, but I'm going to keep doing my best to help you out, help you make some money. It's always nice to win my own money, but it's way, way nicer hearing from people that they were able to cash from my breakdowns. So I really hope I can help out. And it doesn't mean you even have to tail me, right? You can just watch my breakdowns and then make your own educated decisions. You can hear what I'm saying and think, you know what? There's an argument for the underdog. I'm just going to take him. Or there's an argument for the favorite. Mike's on the underdog, but I can go the other way. You can do your own thing. It doesn't matter, right? You can tail me, or you can just listen to my breakdowns. Just hope they help in some way. So, yeah. Oh, and I was trying to say about the under. So, everybody loves the under, and I get it. But like I was just saying, Marlon Moroz, yes, he knocked out Sterling. That was a minute ago. Marlon Moroz had a ton of power, especially at that point of his career when his chin wasn't so washed yet. He had a ton of power. And O'Malley, in my opinion, it's not the power that's getting it done for him. It's not the power that's finding the finishes for him. It's that output pace and just the combos. He's very clean technically. And that's how he's getting the finish, in my opinion. I just don't think he's as powerful. Certainly has the power. I just don't think he's as powerful as Marlon Moroz was at that time. It's my own personal opinion. Can he knock out Sterling? Yeah, like I said, especially if he's able to keep it on the feet. I think an attritional knockout is how it happens. I think he works Sterling, gets that finish if he gets that knockout. And then Sterling, can he get a sub? Yes, absolutely. Like I said, human backpack, huge grappling advantage, great jiu-jitsu. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if O'Malley survived those exchanges and didn't get submitted, just got rode out with Sterling on his back like he likes to do. Because O'Malley, like I said, from training out of MMA Lab, he's training with guys with good jiu-jitsu. It's a good camp for jiu-jitsu. And I don't think he's going to be extremely easy to submit. I really don't. I think he's going to be relatively hard to submit even for Sterling. So I wouldn't be shocked if we go the distance here. Let me see what that line is at. So under 4.5 is minus 200 now, plus 160 on over. I might bet it. I might take the over. I'm gonna wait and see what happens, but I think both guys are gonna be able to survive what the other one brings. And me personally, I see this fight going to decision more often than not. So if I think it's more than 50-50 going to go to a decision and it's plus money, I'm going to probably take a shot. I'm just going to wait and see. I get the argument of why. I get why people love it so much, because that way you don't have to bet a side. You can just bet the under. And if Sterling gets his sub, you win. And if O'Malley gets his knockout, you win. But I just don't think it's that simple. And I think that this goes to a decision more often than not. So I'm going to be looking at that prop as well. And like I said, I do have Sterling at minus 240 for 2.5 units. That line is not currently available, but it's minus 250 now. I think that's fine. I think that's playable. And money's coming in on O'Malley. So maybe you can sit and wait, because people are going to keep coming in. Casuals start betting later in the week. They're going to start parlaying Sean O'Malley based off of his name. They're going to be hammering him. Everybody loves Sean O'Malley, especially guys who don't watch a lot of fighting. All of my friends love Sean O'Malley. They barely watch MMA, but if you just wait, you could probably get a better line on Sterling. So Sterling for me, and fight goes for me. I'm going to wait and see what that line ends up being, and I'll probably take a half unit shot. So that's it, guys. That's almost 12 fights. I did break down Brad Katona against either opponent, Gibson or DeSulio. Let me see if maybe we have our results now. Let me do that now. Let's see. Okay, there's recaps already. Okay, so it seems like it happened. If anyone in the chat was watching and wants to just tell me who won, that would be great. All right, let's see. Okay, still nothing. Show started at 10 p.m. All right, so either the fight's happening right now or the fight is going to happen. So we still don't know who won. Pull up on my Twitter. I'll post my thoughts or whatever on the fight, Katona versus Gibson or DeSulio, depending who wins. But if you missed it, run it back later. I'll put up timestamps. I went over both opponents, so you can be prepared for when the line drops. I imagine that after the winner is clear, after tonight's episode, I think then the books will probably open it tomorrow, maybe tomorrow morning. They're pretty quick with it, especially recently. They opened Blackshear Bautista like this. I mean, it was like within 2 hours, they already had a lineup, which is very rare, but I think that they'll probably do it pretty quick as well for the Katona line. So make sure to look out for it. If you like openers, make sure to wake up early tomorrow. I'm not promising that it will, but that's part of the grind. If you want to get the best line, sometimes you got to make sacrifices. I'm constantly tracking odds. I'm constantly looking at lines. I'm got all my alerts on. Got a ton of hate today. Of course, people don't name names because they're scared to. But I got a ton of hate today for betting Hyder Ammo at minus 145. Hop off, okay? Hop off, because that's not even where he opened. He opened like minus 230, something like that. And he got hammered. It got hammered down the other way. People were betting Samas. And 2 days ago, he was minus 145. And I'm not the only person, because I spoke to several people before I played it. And then I played him at minus 145. So anybody coming in here hating on me, it wasn't even an opener. Literally wasn't even an opener. So if you just track lines, if you look at fightodds.io, if you have BetOnline open and you're refreshing it, you're going to get the things faster than other people. You're going to see things quicker than other people. That's how I got Sean Woodson at plus 110 against Bazooka. It wasn't an opener. It wasn't because I was there first. It was because I sat there and I waited and I watched. And I watched the money come in on Bazooka and come in on Bazooka and come in on Bazooka. And all of a sudden, Woodson's plus 110. Boom. So if you just watch patiently, you don't need openers necessarily. You can just watch the line movement and you can make a move when you see the line is off compared to what you think. So we'll see with Katona. Thank you guys for watching. Real quick, I'll run through my bets for the card, and then we'll hop on out of here. Just over an hour for the show. That's around where I like to keep it. So in terms of bets, we've got Aljamain Sterling minus 245, 2.5 units. Lemos plus 300, 0.5 units. Vera minus 180, 2 units. Moroz plus 145, 1 unit. Gary Tavares minus 130 on that parlay, 1.4 units. And Rodrigues by submission for half a unit. In terms of other spots that I may or may not be adding, like I said, Natalia Silva round 3 or decision, I'll be looking out for that. Meerschaert sub round 3, round 2, I'll be looking out for that. What else? I'll be watching the Blackshear line I think I'm going to play him for a half unit, just waiting to see where we end up. Let me see what else. And the Aljamain Sterling O'Malley over, depending on where the odds end up. I'm also looking at that. So that's it for me. Once again, thank you guys for watching. I do have some other stuff going on this week. Tomorrow on my channel this time, me and Wiz does, my guy Wiz, we're going to be breaking down Dana White's Contender Series Week 3, nice and early. I love Contender Series. I really, really like it. Aside from betting, I just really like watching prospects. I love taping prospects. I know some people don't like watching the regional tape because it could be rough, but me personally, I love the process, and I really like watching prospects and then watching them in the UFC afterwards. And I do pretty decent, right? The first week I lost. Let me tell you how much I lost. It wasn't too crazy, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I lost 2 units the first card, and then today I won 3.96 units. So we're 1-1 on cards for Dana White's Contender Series, up a little bit, hoping to keep it going. Week 3, breaking it down tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern time on my channel with Wiz Does. We're switching channels each week. So next week will be on Wiz's channel. Last week was on Wiz's channel. This week is on mine. And then on Thursday, we're doing Prop Talk, me and Propaholic, as always, on Twitter Spaces. But it's going to be different now in terms of time. I work now, so I can't do those early times like I used to. We're going to be doing, what did we say? I think we said 8 o'clock. We're going to be doing 8 o'clock. It's tough for me because I get home like right before that, but should be all right. Make sure to pull up for that. We just break down the card from a prop perspective. We talk about props we like. I'm pretty good at props, but Propaholic is very good at props. His ROI is like something nuts for it. So definitely check him out. Definitely check out Prop Talk. And that's probably going to be it in terms of video content. I have been doing write-ups again. I'll be posting my write-ups on Substack. I posted a link on my Twitter. And like I said in the beginning, just started a Discord. If you're into MMA discussions, just talking fights, pull up, 100% free. Not one of these guys who's going to charge you money. There's literally people charging $15 so you can go in their Discord and talk to other people. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Don't think that's the move. I mean, it's one thing if it's a Discord where they're like posting their picks and early breakdowns and all this cool stuff, then okay, yeah, it makes sense. But some people are literally charging you just to like sit there and talk to other people and maybe sometimes get their bets, and that's just stupid in my opinion. So mine is free, 100% free. I do post my bets in there now. Started today, but I'll be posting all my bets in there. I'll be posting short breakdowns, just my thoughts, nothing too crazy in there. And we talk fights. We're talking Dana White's Contender Series today. We'll be talking about UFC. So pull up. The link is on my Twitter. I pinned it to my profile at Couch Warrior Pod. It's the first thing you'll see when you pull up to it. And if you don't like Twitter, reach out to me some other way. All my links are on my YouTube channel, and I'll give you the Discord link. So you know what? Nah, actually, I was thinking maybe put it in the description, but there's a limit to the randomness of people that I want joining. So if you really want it, pull up to my Twitter or hit me up, and I will give you the link. It is up there on Twitter for anybody who wants it. So thank you guys once again. Sorry for talking so much, and good luck this weekend. Let's get it.